So I guess we'll call it to order. We have 4 plus 1 alternate is 5. The issue will be when we get there, if we don't have someone else show up for the Scriven subdivision, we may not have a quorum. But Cliff, if you mind joining for the start. To just move approval of the draft minutes to the end of the preconceptual subdivision and plan for tomorrow. Second? All in favor? Aye. Alright, first up is the preconceptual for Stern. The applicant or whoever's presenting can come up. Overview before you jump in, Wes. I'm sure you're familiar, but nothing's binding. We can't approve or disapprove or rule on any particular application of the ordinance. The process I'd like to sort of follow is you can present generally what the proposed subdivision is, any concerns that you'd like to flag to the board. Then the board can ask questions, flag any requirements they think you might need to look into before the actual application. Brief public comment and then close it at that point. So.
Good. Good evening. My name's Webb Stout. Mr. Stearns wanted me to come before you folks just to bounce this off of you to show you what he's proposing to do. It probably won't happen until fall because, well, that's when I'll be back. But it's on Baptist Hill Road. Briarbush Road is right here in this location. And if you're all familiar with this area, it's the barn that's really, really close to the road. This is basically it. It's about 28, almost 29 acres total in size. And it is in 2 different zones. It's in the agricultural and the rural. He's proposing to cut 2 lots off the southerly end. Basically, my questions are, and I know I've asked the board in the past, is on wetlands and topography, and the other question is zoning. I usually show enough, again, this is the rural zone, which is only 2-acre zoning. We're gonna go do 5 acres, just makes sense just to go all the way back, saves him going to the state, doing test pits, $300 per lot. And when I do that, I don't usually, I ask for a waiver for the back, or I will topo enough, do enough physical features to prove to the board that there's a 2-acre contiguous buildable area on each of these lots. This one would be 5 acres. Just so that we don't have to survey the whole property. That would include the topography and the wetlands. On this proposed lot, it's bisected by the zoning line. I guess it's a question to the board. Normally, how I've done it, and I shouldn't say other towns, I won't say other towns. Usually it's the more dominant zone that you would use the rules and regulations on. It is still gonna be, end up being 5 acres, but I guess what I'm saying is I would probably only do topo to show about 2.5 acres of the buildable area on this. Exceeds the frontage, the lots are well over the minimum.
So the primary concern is what's the board's inclination or what do we want to flag related to that middle lot, the one that's in both zones, both zones?
That's the question. Should I or do I need to prove that this is 5 acres of buildable or 2 acres? because the majority of this is in the rural zone, not in the Aggie zone. It's gonna be 5 acres.
There is more than 2 acres in the rural zone, is that true?
Yes, yeah. The more, I mean, I could come with the exact acreage, but it's, yeah, that's taken up 2/3 of that lot.
It seems that he could subdivide just a 2-acre lot and do the 2 acres and be within regulation. So for him to go to a larger lot, I don't think would require any more stringent regulation than on the lot, on the area he has in the rural zone that is in compliance. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm also curious, Webb, is it set up in a way where you could have a 2-acre contiguous building envelope?
In here,
Inside there?
I guess I could follow the zoning line. And again, this zoning line is electronically reproduced off the zoning maps, there's no dimensions, nothing, so could this line go this way a little bit? Could. There is over 300 feet of frontage, that's required in both zones, I guess we could, this might be 12 feet.
And the frontage is essentially all in the
Exactly.
rural zone.
It's all in the, yeah. I mean, I know we like to try and keep lot lines perpendicular or close to perpendicular radial to roads. And that's what you're basically seeing here.
Any questions from any of the other board members?
The other alternative would be to take and have him sell more property than he would want to. Make that southern portion one lot and then carve out a second lot
Yeah,
in the ag zone.
yeah. No,
I mean, that,
This seems like a better option, doesn't it?
I mean, that way it would stay with the zoning and there wouldn't be an issue, it just would mean that he would be out more land in his larger lot.
I see what you're saying, I guess what I'm asking is that it's gonna be 5 acres anyways, so it's gonna meet the criteria either for the Aggie and or the rural, it's gonna be over. It's what I'm going to show for a buildable area. Instead of topo doing the wetlands on the entire 5 acres, I'd write a waiver to just do it on 2.5 acres. Because the more dominant portion of that lot's in the rural zone.
Yeah, there's also something in the ordinance about if the zoning boundary is within a certain number of feet of the lot boundary, then
It would
the
follow the lot.
application for that lot is following the lot line. But
And again, I think that's for the existing lot, we're actually creating this line.
right,
If this were down,
Gotcha.
say in this section, I would agree, it would probably follow that property line.
good point, thank you.
Yeah, I guess all that is, it looks like you've thought it through, there's 2 lots, you're having the lots meet the minimum that would be required in the ag zone on their own. You have, at least a plan to show a 2-acre buildable lot in each of the 2 that are going to be in the rural zone out of the total 5 acres. Beyond that, it looks like you've hit the concerns and you've flagged them. We'll have to see in terms of when the application actually comes in, whether there's, any concerns from the public or
Sure.
anything else.
Yep. Okay, I guess that's all I had.
Anything else from any of the other board members?
Nope.
I think we're good.
Super,
Thanks
thank
for-
you.
Public, don't need public and stuff.
So, thank you for the reminder. Yeah, anyone from the public wanna comment on the pre-conceptual? All good, thank you. One quick suggestion before I jump, where it will be 4 members. They don't want to continue the application, knowing that they have to have 3-1 majority.
Fair enough. We are going to go to the Scrivener subdivision.
For the record, I abstain as in the butter.
Yeah. So we have, just to let the public know, we have some members that did not show up. So right now, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 members, normally would be 6. So how those numbers play would determine, so if you want to pass and come to the next meeting, you're within your right to do that.
I think my question to you is, if it's a tie, it's denied, is that correct? Okay.
So where we have 4 members, it would only take 2 to make it a tie. It's just, it is what it is, it's who showed up tonight. We have 2 members that are absent.
May I ask a question? If he gets, does he have to make this decision now, or can he make this decision after he's gotten into the presentation and seen what the questions from the board seem like?
That's a fair question. I would almost be inclined either before we started, either we start it and go through it, or we don't start it, we postpone with everybody here.
When is the next meeting?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Provided Michelle, what's the calendar look like for 2 weeks? Before I put my foot in my mouth. Can we postpone it to the next meeting?
Deadline,
No.
no. I mean, that's kind of your call, but the deadline for the 27th.
The posting deadline?
Yes.
Could,
it's 10 days.
I'm sorry, could the posting be right here with the people?
That's what I would think. Can I defer to,
Not on this one, yeah.
what do you think, Greg? Can this posting work for that meeting?
I think if you open the hearing and then close the hearing, close it and continue it, then everyone who, then it's like, then you're noticed because it's a continuation, right? Does that sound,
Yeah.
I mean, every time we go into trying to figure things out on the fly, we end up in trouble, so I think it would be,
I guess we would like to postpone it.
Okay. So what I suggest doing is that we open it. And then
you request a postpone.
I request a postponement and we'll close it.
Sounds good.
Alright, so let's open the hearing on Scriven's proposal for the subdivision.
I guess just what we went over, I think the best thing for this is to probably postpone it in 2 weeks. So we have a,
And by doing so, I'm hoping that the notice of the hearing by continuing, postponing and continuing to the 27th. We're within legal boundaries.
And that would give us 2 weeks to maybe find out if that's a problem, then we could change how we were moving forward.
You'll let us know on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens if the next meeting, the same thing happens?
Hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah, I know, but what if it does? You know?
Then we've gotta risk it, I guess. You'll have to risk it or whoever's here. I mean, I'm kinda giving you the benefit of the doubt and giving you the opportunity to postpone it right now because we don't have notice of members being here. We don't require members to notify us. So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, saying we're only at 4 people. Normally you would have a board of 7, 6 plus a selectman rep, so I'm giving you the opportunity to forego, postpone, continue to the next meeting.
So
What
This
if,
is my first one to
Right,
run this
what-
all myself, and I don't really wanna give this up, so.
what if we went through the process? No, that makes no sense, no, it's either we postpone.
Yeah, because otherwise, if we went through the process and then we got
Try to table
through,
it.
we'd have to revisit everything again for
Yeah.
the members that were
Yeah,
absent.
no, be the best thing.
Hey, Webb,
Yes.
if it helps you make up your decision, I just asked Clifton anyway, as an abutter, I have no objections to the subdivision, if you wanna factor that in.
I also have no objections to
objections?
this subdivision.
That
Then,
puts us in good shape
Yes.
for now.
Okay,
just wanna go through it, we can go through it.
Yep.
They say yes, they say no.
yeah.
Okay,
So we'll open it up, we'll change our mind, thank you.
are you rejoining your seat or are you still?
Well, I'm still disqualified, so I'll still sit with the public for the
Okay,
application.
alrighty, so
Alrighty.
we're gonna open it and we're gonna
Let you have your
tell us
chance.
about it.
Again, Web Stout, representing Scribins for their proposed subdivision on Northwest Road. Just to give you a little bit of history on this property, this is like, this would be the 5th subdivision of this property since prior to 1974. This was a much larger parcel. This actually went over to Old Tilton Road. And there were 3 lots that were cut off prior to 1974 on Old Tilton Road. And then in 74 itself, there was another 3 lots cut off on Old Tilton Road. And then in '09, this lot, together with this lot that abuts it to the south, was subdivided off. And here we are today, phase 6 or 7 of this subdivision. Basically, it's this property here that consists of, let me step back. In '09, this lot line right here was adjusted. And the reason for that adjustment was to allow frontage for this lot to be subdivided. It was short like 17 feet of 600 feet. So a lot line adjustment was done in '09 that pushed this lot line from this point here down roughly 17 feet to get the frontage to subdivide the lot. With all that said, there is an existing structure on the house, well, septic. Because it's on state highway, you need state approval for its driveway. There is one here for this one. There was a note on the application that the owner at that time wanted to shove this driveway 50 feet further north State would not allow it because of the safe site distance, right here, this high point is right here. They don't have the 400 feet. There is a proposed driveway for this, I'll call it the vacant lot, 37-1, and we did get, state subdivision, or state, driveway permit for that. We're basically cutting this lot right in half. This is 5.586 acres, this is 5.592 acres. If we ran this line straight back, this would be under 5 acres. It's just, it's not a big deal, we could go to the state, it just saves application going to the state. And keeping it 5 acres. And again, this is in the rural zone, so it's only 2 acre zoning. They greatly exceed that. There is going to be an easement for this driveway to this existing lot, over this lot here. That'll all go in the deed, that'll all get written up in the deed. And there is enough room on this easement to allow the snow to be pushed off. It's not right up against the pavement. I am asking for a couple of waivers that we spoke to earlier. And the 2 waivers are for the wetlands to be delineated and the topography. I have topoed 2.5 acres at the front of both of these, field topo. This topo that you see in the back, the solid lines, is what it's LiDAR. It's from the UNH website. It's pretty good stuff. I mean, it really is good stuff. You just have to tie into USGS, which I have. And you can see how the topos match one another. This wetland has been put on, from my observation, and actually it cuts through here a little bit. But there are no wetlands on the front 2.5 acres of either one of those lots. There is some exposed ledge, but where isn't in Canterbury? Those are the 2 waivers that I have asked for. I can't think of anything else, that's about it.
So the logic on the 2.5 acres is similar in that you're required to, it's 2 acres minimum. And you're providing us with the topo and the wetland assessment on more than the minimum acre.
Correct, yes, yes.
Okay. So I will ask the board, we need a motion on completeness and a motion for waivers.
I'll move on completeness.
I'll second.
So a motion on completeness. Next one is a motion on waivers. We can do them individually. He's asking for a wetland waiver. You heard his explanation, so I'm looking for a motion on wetland waiver.
I'll move on wetland waiver.
And I'll second that. And then hit the requirement for the topo, we need a motion on topographic.
I'll move that.
And I'll second.
Very good.
Thank you.
So the next question is there regional impact? I think doesn't look like it. This is subdivisions on Canterbury. How far are you from the line?
From Northfield, 1.5 miles.
Yeah. So I don't believe that there is regional impact involved with this subdivision.
It's 1 residential lot, right?
Correct.
One additional,
One
yes.
additional.
Yes.
One additional residential lot. The next question is, are there any board members that feel that a site walk is necessary or required here?
No for me.
Nathan?
No.
Greg?
No for me.
So site walk is not requested. The board wish to, first we'll open up to public comments. Are there any butters present that wish to speak to the merits or demerits of this plan?
Sure, Brendan O'Donnell, 533 Northwest Road. I think it looks fine, I have no problem with the subdivision. I think I confirmed too that there is a lot of wetland, but it's all pretty far off the road, so it starts on my property and the water continues that direction, so I don't see any concerns with that on the plan.
Very good.
Clifton Matthew, I think this is a perfect example of sound development, you know, splitting the lots the way they have. I know in the past I've pushed against, you know, big developments in town and whatnot, but I think this is a good proposal set forth in front of us.
Anybody else wish to speak? Now that we've heard from the abutters, anybody from the general public wish to speak to this plan? Nobody from the general public. Board, if you wish to, within our board here, discuss the merits of this plan. Any problems, any issues, anything that you see? The only question I have is, the original driveway, where that's an easement, does that carve into the acreage on that subdivision?
I'm not so sure that easements are not considered, or if it's written out in the zoning, I don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't believe it is. It wouldn't matter in any ways because this is 2 acre zoning and we've got 5 acres.
Okay.
But I don't think they,
That the
other
only-
towns do, yes, they cut out
That's the
easements.
only tricky thing I
Mhm.
think that would
Right.
fly in here.
Yeah, where it would be as if it affected your frontage.
Right, correct, the
Right.
frontage, how much
Right.
frontage do you have on that subdivided lot?
They're both, this is 301.9, this is 300.2.
So that shouldn't apply.
No.
And what do you plan the width of that right of way to be?
It is approximately, Greg, it is 34 feet, no, more than that. It's 33 and 16 and 9, 10, so it's like 55, 60 feet.
60 feet, you said, is that
Hold on.
correct? I mean, I don't need to know exactly, I'm curious. I don't think we have a number in the ordinance.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't think so, no,
Right.
it's 60 feet, and the reason being that is because of the frontage. You can see where the frontage is for the 300 feet for each lot, right here. I just made it 60 feet, that's 12 feet beyond the edge of the pavement. It allows for the maintenance of the driveway, the snow,
Right,
you're not
yeah.
going on somebody else's property. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we discussed making a 75-foot
Ah.
minimum right of way, but it's not in the ordinance now, so it's not.
Okay.
Question,
Me.
any concerns about the proximity of the leach field area, which the septic area being so close to the wetland line?
Here,
Mm-hmm.
again, that would take place in the septic design. I just put that on there just to show where it would go, that a well radius and a leach field can fit well within the, and right now from the wetland, and I would call this a very poorly drained soil, so it would be a 75-foot setback. Use the right scale. Right now, it is approximately 180 feet away.
So more than double.
In poorly drained soils, it can actually be 50 feet within a poorly drained soil with a leach field. This could be put way up front, it's really the placement of the house, where the house ends up. But that will need state septic approval anyway.
Does the board have any other questions? Okay, so we're gonna close it to comments, and I'm going to ask the board for a motion to approve this subdivision.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. We're supposed to put in some findings, right? I would think that would be the finding that it is in compliance with the ordinance.
That is, alright, so that this subdivision is compliance with our ordinance. What other finding? No, I can ask for a vote.
Did we address the waiver question?
The waivers, we have, approved waivers for the wetland.
Yes, we did, yes,
And we
did,
have
yeah,
approved
yeah.
the waivers for topographic. We looked at completeness. Can't think of anything else.
I'm gonna add one more thing.
Go ahead.
I forgot to add this. All this topography is gonna come off the Mylar. Just because I don't wanna cut up all the text.
Yep.
I can issue the town as many copies as they want, that'll look just like this, but the Mylar itself will be exempt. There won't be any topo. The registry doesn't like lines going through the text.
So, when you provide soft copies of this to Mandy, correct?
Yes,
Right, and that's a DWG format,
I can do her PDF, probably not a DWG, and she has AutoCAD, I usually give them PDFs,
and
yes,
so do you do a PDF with the topo?
I can do
and
them both,
DP
yes.
And without?
yes.
Just so it's there for
Mhm.
reference.
Yep.
I understand about the Mylar, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, they're impossible to read if you get them.
Yeah.
I can trim all this text, it's just that I deal with this day in and day out topo, and you try and, what are all these lines, they don't connect to anything. So it's just easier, it's
Yep.
way easier.
no, it makes sense, just for clarity.
All right, we have
I think we're good.
motion on the floor.
So there's a motion on the floor for board members to either approve or deny this subdivision. Were we already there?
Did we vote on the waiver separately, or do we vote on
We
this as a
did.
package?
We did already,
We
we did
did
already, I
already.
was confused about that too, I
Yeah.
thought we'd done it.
Wait, I thought we made motions and seconded, I don't recall voting.
I think you just did motions.
We just did motions and seconded, we did not, so I didn't know if this
Okay,
needed to be
thank
voted on in full, or if we needed to vote for each of those separately.
Guys,
was
we're the
my
first
question.
one.
That's okay, that's okay.
So we need a motion to approve or deny, and we can conditional in the motion, in the vote.
So this is one vote for all three,
Correct.
okay,
Make it easier, see, there's no issues,
so moved.
so
I'll
moved.
move.
I'll second again.
Very good.
Michelle, you're clear on what this says.
So the motion, if you wanna state it, approve and
motion
what the conditions are.
Motion to approve the Scriven subdivision, with the inclusion conditions of, waivers for wetlands on entire property and topography on entire property.
There you go. Seconded,
Yet again.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thank you.
You're all set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
I'm with
Next up, new business is adopting our handbook tomorrow. So we have, is there one of these that is available for the public if they want, it looks like it's a public meeting, so we're good there.
Yep.
Good night, thanks.
You wanna hand me a note, or?
Well, good. So this is, Mike delivered these to us today, Mike Tarter.
Yeah.
They're plan was to give us 6 copies, which is I think what we have. And
Have one.
he was basing this on what was done before, that there would be one bound.
These copies are for us.
Not for board members, for the town.
Oh. Okay.
So the town should get those bound, I would think, and there should be one in the town office and one at the library and one in here. And 2 that you save for when one gets lost or something. That was what, I think what this is how the plan came to me from previous.
And the digital one will be added to the planning board website after it's approved.
Correct. Well, it's been on the website for,
It's there now.
Yeah.
but it's
I think it's under
called-
proposed, so the
Yeah.
word proposed is gonna remove and the old one, go ahead and take down.
And we had that sign off sheet, Mike gave us the sign off sheet.
Yep,
Yes,
so
okay.
right here, so I mean, there were still people, it looks like there's not a whole lot watching, but in case anyone goes back, just, you know, wanna thank everyone on this board and the past boards and going back a whole number of years, this has been a real Herculean effort to get to the finish line and particularly those, including Megan and Rich and Greg, who were working on sub-chapters throughout the past year, and all the effort that went into that. Were you not?
That was them. I was able to attend a couple meetings and
You
got too
came
busy.
the first couple.
I went to 2, so that's some credit to them.
Well, thank you everyone for all the effort getting it to this point. I think it's a fantastic master plan. I would hope that, well, it's gonna be great that we don't have to even start the process of looking at a new one for hopefully another 7-8 years, so we can be ahead of it, but.
Well, I had an idea about that, and I went to a training this weekend, they had, it's a good refresher, I went to the, so you're a planning board member, and it was that whole
Right.
review thing, and I had it playing in the back while I was doing chores around the house and stuff, and I was listening, catching up on a couple things, and somebody brought up that, some towns, they take, and especially where we have 8 chapters, 8 chapters, it might be worth us looking at doing a chapter or 2 every year. Rather than doing one big bite and trying to gobble down the whole thing, and, which was a lot of work. But there were other issues that prevented us from doing it faster. It might be worth doing a chapter or 2
Yeah, I
every
mean, the
year.
first couple of years, it'll be no real changes, but then you'll get into a groove, so
Well, I think we also found that when we were doing it, we're looking back and referencing, at the time when it was being written, we were like talking in 2 voices. It was like talking like 25, and there were some things referencing 23 that were already old. So there are older references in there. I don't know, it's just something that I noticed, I saw, and I felt now would be a proper time to speak to that. Plus, we also know that we are going to try to,
yeah, I was gonna address
One more
that,
chapter.
other business shortly. Okay. Anyone from the board wanna speak to it, and then I'll check just to see if any of the 2 people up there have any comments.
I agree with doing some work ahead of time rather than waiting to the end to rush. You never know what's gonna happen in those last couple years, pandemics, all kinds of things that could happen. And also I think and you may be speaking to this maybe in the other business, Brendan, but something about more strategic planning, more high level planning of the board's time, the board's focus for the year, some more organization to the things we're working on outside of applications, I think would be really helpful for the direction of the board.
Just making a note, they wanna flag anything in the business, so I'll circle back to that. Alright, anyone else wanna speak to the plan for tomorrow?
I also, not only the board, well, I mean, we did a lot of work on it, but I wanna give credit to Greg for leading us through that. And he almost got to the finish line while he was still chair, but he still got it to the finish line. And I wanna give some credit to Greg for leading that charge.
So thank you, Greg.
Thank you, guys. But that goes two ways, cause without all the support from the board members, it wouldn't have happened. We were able to put together a team that really worked together and really delivered. It's a pleasure to be part of that.
Anyone remote who wants to speak to the plan for tomorrow before we move forward with the vote to adopt? Alright, we'll go with no one. Alright. So it's also a good question, can they hear me? Alright, take a motion to adopt the master plan, the plan for tomorrow in the current form, which we have right there.
Do you wanna motion it?
Sure. I move to adopt the plan for tomorrow that we have been working on for the last forever.
Since I've been a board member, it's been 2+ years, so.
That's it, right? It is what it is.
Second,
General, on page 6.5, I have some comment, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
I just wanted to see the colors right from everyone's
I'll second
faces, like-
that motion.
yep, there it is. Any discussion?
I abstained because I was not part of the process.
We can, CJ, you can still vote on it.
I still abstain.
Alright,
I still
go
don't.
with that. Alright, so all those in favor of adopting the plan for
Sure,
tomorrow?
we don't need to talk about the radar graph? No, okay.
Alright, well, I vote aye,
I vote aye. Aye.
so carries 5-0. I have a certificate of adoption, I'm gonna sign, we'll circulate that, but don't leave before that.
Yep.
Double check it's the 13th.
While he's doing that, I just wanna bring this up, Michelle, that bag has been left in here for a while at the NHMA with some hat and gloves.
It might be mine.
It looks like your
We're
gloves.
wondering if,
Kinda looks like your gloves.
Thank you.
it is,
Knew it.
Michelle, you found us home.
I was thinking about not having to wear hats and gloves when I came out of the house tonight. Isn't that nice?
Alright, so while we're working on signing under old business / other new business, there is a draft solid waste chapter that is not included in this, and Rich had the draft and he shared it. And what we talked about is, again, we can adopt chapters, it doesn't have to be an entire master plan at once. That we could schedule a work session on that, to talk through any issues, make any changes, and then look for maybe 4 or 6 weeks out from that to set the actual public hearing for adoption, and then it can be adopted right at that point, so it can be a much faster process. If there's no concerns, I think what I'd like to do is add that draft for the next meeting in May, which would be the 27th. We can circulate that ahead of time, add it to the agenda. Any problem with doing that for the 27th, and then we look for something either end of June or beginning of July to adopt that chapter. Alright. And then
that electronic from like, did you get, yes, you do have it.
yeah. So I'll send that or forward that to Michelle to the extent she's not on it, you can send it to the board ahead of the May 27th and add it to the agenda.
Got it.
In terms of, Megan, your comment about sort of dividing time and planning, one of the things, and I've emailed a little bit with Greg about list of potential ordinance changes, and rather than get to the end of the year and suddenly have a rush where we don't even have drafts to work on, we're up against those deadlines to get the public hearing in before the town meeting. What I'm gonna do is take those and try to divide them up over the next 6 months or so we can start hitting on those. And I think my plan for May 27th is I have, where did I get it, the materials on the sludge ordinance that Gail had looked at and originally Belmont, which has some parts in their zoning ordinance. And I guess the thought for Canterbury was just review a proposed Board of Selectmen ordinance. So I will get a draft, even if it's just for discussion purposes, but good to go for the agenda for the 27th. And we can start looking at a selectmen's ordinance for the sludge piece. And then in May or June, I'll circulate a list of some of the other ordinances we talked about and sort of set a schedule so we can hit them. I would love to see sort of the overall meeting time come down a bit, and I think spreading that was gonna help, particularly at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So just to flag some of the ones that were on Greg's list, which was fantastic and very detailed, so you can start wrapping your head. So if there's a preference for taking ones up sooner or later, let us know. That there was solar ordinance, wetland setback, adding that to the zoning ordinance, any changes to slope limitations, having the zoning ordinance address congregate services, different types of care facilities, and then number of potential changes to any definitions. We can always take up individually, either adding definitions, or clarifying, modifying definitions. And last was to review the current workforce housing piece. The other thing, just to keep in the back of your mind, if anyone has thoughts as we go forward in terms of looking at different ways to approach agricultural zone, in light of certainly the legislature's desire to get involved with overall zoning and setting mandatory maximum lot size required for a subdivision. Any sort of creative solutions that we can discuss would be good. I think what Greg, you had on your list, the idea that you theoretically could have a 30-acre minimum that's probably gonna run into some issues. Another thing that we could look at is removing the option for cluster subdivisions in certain zones. So if you want cluster subdivision increases density, and if you'd rather have density in the residential zone or the rural zone and not the ag zone, you could change how that works between those two. But
It's not allowed, cluster is not allowed in the ag conservation zone.
otherwise, if you come up with anything else in terms of potential ordinances, pretty easy to go to any of the other towns, look, if you find something, feel free to bring it to any of the meetings, we can set up a time to talk about it.
Do you want us to notify you in the meeting or let Michelle know ahead of time to get it on the agenda?
You can do either way, I don't really have a preference, personally, we've always got the other business section, so if any of it comes to you, you can bring it to the board. That cuts down certainly on, emails and potential records that are subject to 91A if you want to just show up and raise something in other business, so no concern on that end.
When I was digging that out, this is a review of local wetland setback ordinances for a bunch of different towns. The smallest on there, if it's from a 25-year-old plan, you'll see it's 25 feet, but most of them are in this 75, 100, 125.
Just gonna make my entire property not buildable, Greg, I see. No, I jest, but yes, I would love to see a wetland setback added.
How many acres do you have?
12, it's almost the same lot almost, except mine goes back to Old Town Road.
There's another part to that question, which is the setback area right now for your lot size minimum, wetlands are excluded. Question is the setback also excluded from the lot size dimension, so.
Yeah, I mean, you can,
So it's just we just need to be conscious of how we're applying it. And the same is how we apply steep slopes, are not in, you can't count steep slope as part of your acreage minimum. And that's probably, I didn't put that on there, or did I put steep slopes on that list? 'Cause that's
steep slopes,
something-
I read off slope, changing the slope limit and how it applies, and yeah, I mean, once you have a setback, what you start seeing from applications is people who have structures they wanna put right up against the setback, and then you have issues of, are they gonna put anything impervious, and that's when we don't really deal with that all that much, cause we haven't had a need for addressing impervious, but there's, you know, patios that you can use which are theoretically pervious structures, or you could say, you know, none of those additional, no decks, no anything else also in that setback, so all of that we can,
It's also a part of the solar issue is putting solar in. Can you put solar in wetland or not? A lot of solar people say it's a good use. But there's also solar agriculture where you're putting it in. And if anybody's interested in driving over towards Pittsfield, go to Loudon and take a right on Pleasant Street, and you'll see a perfect example of how you do not want solar in your town.
I wasn't sure which example you were gonna do, some example for how you don't want it. Yeah, I mean, there's some, I think, Maine, their Department of Ag encourages solar because you can, it's fixed solar, or even, you can put it up and still graze animals underneath it. So you can get sort of double the use out of the property.
It's a neat idea.
But, in terms of those, that one should be pretty straightforward to get a draft, there's just a lot of different options. But, I would be interested in trying to get that for June or July.
One that is a rabbit hole, and it seems simple, but when we were doing the land use regulations, we ran into a lot of things. Number one, there's a bunch of missing definitions, we do need some that are missing. But we ran into the roadblock of there are definitions that are in zoning and definitions that are in the land use. And we didn't wanna repeat them, and it's like, well, where should it be? We ran into some definitions that we're using in land use and should have been in zoning, and then there are some in zoning that should have been in land, so that's a rabbit hole to decide how to deal with that, or just leave it alone and just address the ones that we're missing.
Hand down the road and we would deal with what we're more
So my,
important, but I don't know.
I'm just saying, definitions might be a bigger,
yeah, and I
Okay.
think that's maybe why it's easier sometimes to just take up individual definitions, and if people are bringing them, or we're spreading them out instead of every time, I think historically, in at least the 6 or so years that I've on and off the board, every time someone's tried to look at the entire table of definitions and table of uses, that's when they have run into trouble, because it's just too big.
Way too big a bite.
But if you look individually at the single issue, it's a little easier.
Question about that, I imagine this won't be very popular, but if you were to say, take this public document, all of our land use regulations, our zoning, and feed it to an AI and ask where it is weak, ask what definitions it would recommend strengthening based on the legislation changes, it will give you some pretty, it's not a thing we have to go with, but it can recommend things for us to consider that we may miss in looking at a gigantic document like that, because we don't have the processing speed or capacity to hold all of that together. Don't know how the board feels about that, but
Well,
I would recommend it.
I guess what I'll say is there's nothing stopping any individual board member from doing that, identifying a potential area of weakness and then discussing it that way.
Okay.
And if you did it that way, I think to the extent there's concern from the public or the board members, it sort of goes out the window because you're coming with a discrete issue, and we can talk through that issue.
Sure.
But, I fear doing the whole thing, not necessarily as a fear of AI, but just you end up with a big list of things to do if you look at the entire ordinance at once. Alright, where was I? Sorry. anything further on that, or do you mind if I pivot slightly? Greg, just following up, cause I'm a little unclear, on the consolidated land use regulations. Did the board adopt that consolidated
Yes.
land use regulations, and it's just working on the checklist, right?
Correct.
So, Michelle, can you
And we
flag,
did,
or we can flag it
we
for
did
Cal?
a document, very much,
But
we
the-
did a document like this.
Yes.
It's right,
Well, the reason I wanted to flag it is the website currently doesn't have it, and it instead has the individual subdivision, site plan review, planning board procedures, and so I just wanted to flag that if we have adopted it, we
It
should,
should get
we
on
need to
there,
get
it
that
should
on
get
the,
down there
Yeah,
in
on the website.
That's
So-
something you can do, Michelle?
Effective November 12th.
There it is. I didn't go back far enough. I was looking through some of the agendas to try to find it. So if you have any trouble with that, let me know and I can try to coordinate with Cal if we have some issues getting it online.
and then we're getting really close to the last iteration of checklists. Which, if I can speak to that. Matt responded to your email, so, but we don't have Josh here, and he proposed,
I didn't see that.
oh,
This is subcommittee meeting dates.
this is subcommittee for the land use regulations for the checklists. And he was,
June 16th or 17th
yeah,
at 6 p.m.
so he offered those two dates, and I said I could make either one of them. So he's proposing either the 16th or the 17th of June at 6 o'clock.
I can do either, I'm pretty sure. Alright, so we're waiting for Joshua to come back to us on that.
And it's been 2 days.
Sorry, which subcommittee is this?
The
Land
regulations.
use regulations, the checklists for those.
Which come out of the, it's just picking out the piece parts of
Right,
the.
and if I'm remembering back to, now that I remember it's November, the other thing to flag is if you see anything else in the land use regulations, if anyone sees it, we can always individually pick up and notice a change to those and just have a hearing and amend them without changing the whole thing.
Do we have a digital version of our
There should be.
regulations that are updated? I know the last digital version of zoning was updated.
So that's.
The
that's what
land
I'm
use
sure.
regulations weren't updated, they're just, it was the final version and they were effective when we adopted them back in November.
But they're online.
That's what
They're
Brendan
not on
was
the
talking
website
about,
currently,
putting online,
so that's what.
But we do
Michelle's
have it
saying.
in digitized form
yes.
somewhere. Can
Michelle.
someone email that to me, please? Thank you.
Brendan, for everybody, the 16th of June is a select board meeting here. So.
Well, we'd have to have it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You guys have Wednesday? meeting?
No, the June 16th is a Monday.
Seventeenth is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that would not be the second Tuesday, right? No, it would not.
No.
No, you're right. For some reason I was thinking it was Wednesday, Thursday, but no, it's,
So we just need to get Joshua to sign on and
And then,
book the space.
do you think it'll be the 17th? What are you gonna propose to Josh? You gonna just give him, okay, never mind.
16th or
Never mind.
17th.
I'm
oh,
thinking,
alright,
I'm thinking out loud.
last is just regarding the June 10th meeting, do you know if we have any, Michelle, any applications for that meeting?
None as of yet.
Okay. Rich said that he won't be here for that date. There is a decent chance that I won't be able to make that date. I have a 2-week jury trials that tomorrow I'm gonna find out if it's actually gonna go forward, if they're gonna try to stall. But if we don't have any applications, it's probably not a huge issue in terms of
Postpone?
postponing, yeah.
There's no
I
applications
will-
postponed now.
Well, I'll know for sure whether or not the trial's actually going forward. So at the May 27th meeting, I'll take that up. Any other,
Yeah, you should, check in with Mike Cardiff about the HOP grant, what's it called, engagement plan.
yeah,
And,
had it on my list to speak with you about after this.
it just might affect some of your, how you're thinking about some of the dates.
Yeah, that's the end of this month. Alright, any other business before we move to adjourn?
Yeah, we gotta do minutes.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
thank you, Justin.
I do have one other thing from Mike, that when Mike handed off these to me. I asked him about the bills in the House and Senate. And, he said that the municipal association thinks that a lot of them are very likely to pass.
That they are gonna pass?
Are likely to pass,
Wow.
including like the class 6 road, not being able to restrict development on class 6 road, and including no building permit cap.
But this is one, it's just a house version, so it still has to cross over. No?
I don't,
I think basically everything at this point has crossed over, so
It has.
whatever's being considered is in the other chamber.
Okay.
The House is
It's also
considering Senate.
2 weeks ago.
Oh,
so, anything we're thinking about changing our ordinances, we may have to really think very differently about addressing our ordinances, but I don't know. I have no idea why.
Take it as it comes, yeah. It's not much you can control there. Alright. Any other business before we turn to the minutes?
One quick question about
Yeah.
where things are with the CIP, in terms of our planning of our time, what's going on with the CIP, now that we have the master plan, what's the next step?
I thought the CIP was next to being finished, but what do you know about it, Michelle?
I think where we left off, Mike and Jan were working on it.
Right, and Mike came in with the paperwork on it and said that it was, you want me to call him? Check?
We can check after, maybe we'll add.
No, I don't mean right now.
Yeah, well, we can just tentatively add it for the 27th is to continue discussion on the CIP, and we'll follow up with Mike after this.
I was there for that presentation, my understanding of what we voted on we did vote on something, but it wasn't a finalized version, it was, do you want us to continue with this, he kind of gave us an example of what, but it wasn't fully
That's
fleshed
correct.
out, and we
That-
voted on,
right,
like,
that-
yes, this is what we want it to look like, this is what we want it to
Did we want it to be out 30 years, or did we have to
Yes,
put the
but
10 years?
we didn't approve it, so I was wondering where the consultants are
Right.
with providing us a
Right, they,
finalized document.
well, if the master plan's any thing to go by, about
Next
6
year,
years.
yeah.
6.
I thought there would be more, I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn or whatever, I just thought the board would be more involved with that. There wasn't a call for help with that, it seemed like it was just done by New Hampshire, their acronym, Mike in it, and it just seemed like, I thought that there would be more board member opportunity for involvement and or involvement in that part of that piece. Because I
Yeah,
know I wanted, I mean, when it was hinted around, I was quick to volunteer for that,
Right.
and then it got dropped because master plan was priority. So it just,
We'll
piece.
have it for the agenda in May 27th, then we can pick it up and talk about how much more we want to do with it and whether we wanna
I
take
don't
it
know,
back, cause it's ultimately up to the board.
seemed like one of the selling attractive parts of it was that it wasn't gonna take a lot that they had figured out a way to do it without using a lot of staff time and without using a lot of planning board time, which is certainly
Yeah, I mean,
valuable.
and the hardest parts of those types of plan are things that don't affect Canterbury, which is usually public sewer and public water. And then When you have dense city roads, they tend to build those in so they can force developers to pay for upgrading the streets, and we don't really have that, I mean, the biggest piece is solid waste. But outside of that, I don't know how much we're gonna fit into it.
Emergency services.
I mean, in state law, the master plan, all is required is a vision statement and land use section, correct? That's all.
There's 2 chapters, yeah, vision and.
I think
There was a bunch that, I mean, again, I understand the reasoning behind everything else was added in, but from a legal standpoint, you only need those 2 portions.
So the master plan, you need that to have innovative land use controls, and then my recollection is that capital improvement plan is necessary for growth moratorium. Or a cap on the building purpose, I mean, it potentially goes out the window if there's a bill that passes that says we can't have a cap anyway.
Right.
But if it doesn't, it's needed just for that one piece.
Yeah, that's all in RSA, the 674.1 and 2.
Right, but
Yeah.
you know, even then, I mean, the places that have sort of the strongest cap, it's usually because they have public sewer and they aren't allowed to expand it due to federal regulation and they're working through a long process. It's not a kind of thing we have, but maybe we look at impact fees more in the future. Alright, so we have a few things for the 27th and minutes. There.
I'll move the minutes.
Second,
Second.
alright, any discussion on the minutes? Did you need a minute, Greg, or are you good?
You can, one sec, one more.
You can have a minute, I don't wanna call the vote if you're still looking.
Good.
Okay. Good? Good, Megan? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Cool, motion to adjourn,
Motion.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Brendan, nice job.
Yeah, Brendan, well done.
Right through the job
One
on
meeting
it.
about the
First
subdivision,
one, right?
call it 0.8 or
A little rough around the edges, do you?